All right, what's good, y'all? Today, I got my man Steven. We're going to be talking with Steven today because he is the epitome of a great example of someone who takes a good advice and got good results from it. So, Steven, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how old you are, what your job is, and things that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, so my name's Steven. I'm 29 years old and I work as an optometrist, so basically an eye doctor. I found Vincent through Reddit actually. I heard about it and I joined his Discord and he posted some videos through it and I looked through it. And some of his content really resonated with me because I didn't really focus on dating because I was just trying to get through school, of course, a lot of Asians. We played a lot of video games. We just didn't go out, and unfortunately, I didn't take early action as early as he did. I think he did his in this 25, and I'm just starting now, and I'm 29. So yeah, I'm a little bit late to the game. So I just knew that I had to work on dating for sure because I know that it's probably not going to get any easier as I get older. So yeah.
Yeah, where are you located, Steven?
Right now I live in Texas, so it's a small town called Victoria. So it isn't the best place to date per se because it's majority Caucasian, and usually what the girls in Victoria are looking for is a redneck cowboy kind of vibe. So I kind of had to expand my location to like Houston, probably to Austin in the future. Whenever I have something to do there, but mostly I've been focusing in Houston and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you're 29 years old right now. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you basically forgot, you basically didn't try dating that much. So give us a quick rundown of your dating history prior to like this point.
Oof, it's pretty scant, if I were to be honest. So I first dated whenever I was in middle school, and the first girl I dated was she was great. We just didn't last too long because overprotective parents in that time, so we broke it off. The second one was a little bit better, was okay as well. That one didn't last too long. It was like a short term, maybe 6 months or so. Funny enough, she broke up with me by having someone send me a post-it saying that we're done. So that I thought that was kind of it was kind of that kind of sucked to hear, but I know right now I just find it pretty funny in a way because I know that she didn't know how to break it to me at that point. So yeah, and I did a formal cold approach whenever in high school. And the girl pretty much shut me down. I wasn't too socially calibrated, so the first time I asked her, she looked away, and I asked her again, and she said, seriously, I said no. So that kind of put me off for a while. And then, yeah, in college, I saw some chances, but I just didn't take them. There was one moment where I had a female study buddy for a class, and I suggested that we get together for coffee, but she turned it down, pretty much rain checked on me. So I kind of figured that was not going to go very far. So I just did my own thing for a while. So, yeah.
So, yep, like you said, pretty scarce.
Yeah.
So from there to now, it took a little bit of like pushing. So just like,
Yeah.
how did you get to the point where you finally decided to take action? Because when you and I first started interacting in like my server, you were mainly asking me for like little tidbits of advice here and there. But what really pushed you to like actually seek like a giant actionable step?
Let's see. Honestly, as I reflected, I should have taken my chance in college. And I realized that it just gets harder and harder as I get older. Because if I didn't go for it in college where there's a lot of females, and then in optometry school where there's even more females, it was pretty much 55 girls to like 10 guys in that class. So you would think that I would have struck gold at that point, but nope, no dice there. So of course I didn't also make the move at that point, so I kind of blame myself. And I just evaluated my situation. I know that I wasn't going to go anywhere at this point, so I knew I had to change something, and this is probably the best way to change it.
Yeah. So like, how did you feel about like any efforts that you had made before? Because you did try online dating for a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't take it seriously. I just got some random selfies. I put it in. I didn't really expect much. And the conversation was pretty much either a bot was it was either a bot or some sort of spammer or some sort of like solicitor or something like that. So I know that I wasn't going to go far with my photos. I just wanted to test the waters, but I just knew that I can't just rely on my, I guess, job title to get any girls. I kind of had to go out there and talk to them. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of like, from going through like this area, you kind of start to see that there was like kind of like a meta for online dating, right? You need to have good pictures of yourself. You need to
Yeah.
showcase your personality without being cringy, without like being dorky or being weird, right?
Yeah.
And just like that type of understanding, like a lot of guys don't have that because just if you just do those two things, that already puts you ahead of more than half the market. So
That's very true.
yeah, yeah, I think like you were gathering those like tidbits of information, and then you finally decide to like do something about it, and you got me to like help you out.
Yeah. You pretty much gave me like a pretty specific pathway to follow almost because you already went through it. You already went through that stuff. So it was really helpful to kind of know what you went through.
Yeah. So for context, Steven and I were like I had planned a trip to New York, and Steven like planned one within that same time frame, and we talked about actually doing like a boot camp there. So I agreed to help take pictures of him for dating app profiles and help him set up his profile like prompts and stuff like that, and also kind of coach him on just how to uh, manage using the apps, how to manage like talking with women that he was interested in. And we did do a little bit of like cold crunch, but we'll get into that later. So yeah. So what was the main like kicker that got you to agree to like follow through with something like this? Because like the investment, it wasn't exactly cheap, right?
Yeah. Um, Honestly, one of my main goals for that trip is to obviously get great to do have great photos because I saw what your photos did and I know that you know what works. Of course, I can hire a professional photographer, but I feel like they don't have like a great idea. They might make it too artificial, and of course, it might work for some people. But I figured that I looked at your profile and you certainly knew what you're doing, and also there's a lot of stuff to take pictures in. And there's also other people that live in New York that I was willing to hang out with. So
Yeah, so it's just a very convenient setup.
yeah.
All right. So now let's take this conversation over to the New York trip. So how did you like just give us like your thoughts on like the types of things that we did or like taking pictures?
So whenever I arrived in New York, it was you and Keith, and we decided to take one of our first pictures in and one this it's like this American bar thing, and I pretty much watched you guys take photos of each other, and you guys gave me tips on how to relax, what to look at whenever you're taking photos, and how to appear, I guess, in a candid way, not try not to look too stiff or rigid, or because people are gonna sense that whenever they look at your photos. So
Yeah. So it's just like the general thought process that I had because this was my first time in New York, but having done photo shoots in other cities already, like I knew that I didn't have to pick specific locations. I just had to pick aesthetic locations and frame it. So the way that I take pictures is like I kind of think about concepts as I like go through places. Like I like a spot, and then I picture, okay, if I put myself in front of it, how do I pose? What props am I holding? Like how good is the lighting? I'm looking at what type of picture can be taken with a person as a subject there. And then I think, okay, can I make someone look aesthetically attractive in this location? And it never hurts to like experiment, because it's just like, you just put someone in front of a spot and take some pictures of them, and it's like, okay, this spot's not good, or the posing's not good, then you can always work on that. And the great thing about having like our phones as cameras now is that we can take a lot of pictures quickly now. So we can quickly do a lot of like micro adjustments. So with this picture of yours that we took, right? Well, we first used Keith as a subject, and then we used what we learned from him as a subject and put you as the subject. So we were figuring out the light, we were figuring out the posing, we were figuring out like the little subtle details, right? Where your hand was, you know, your head angle, right? Those were like very key things that we were like changing with each photo. And we did get like a bunch of good ones, but we were only able to pick one to use. So we did pick the best one. I believe we picked the best one, the location.
Yeah.
So just like having this general principle of the photos, like did you feel it was like very hard to move along through the process, or was it like very easy?
It felt pretty difficult for me at first because I never really knew how to pose a photo. It was pretty much a school photo. We just stand still and you smile at the camera and that was it. You didn't know, like, because they only have your chest up and that's it. But when you take an actual profile photo, you usually are taking like the generalized, like you got your torso, you got a little bit of your legs, and you got the background to consider. And I guess the props as well. Like if you're like leaning against like a railing, or if you had a drink in your hand, or if there's like even people around you, you kind of have to get used to seeing that. So
yeah, so it wasn't. Yeah, go keep going.
It wasn't easy for me. Yeah, it wasn't easy for me. I'm still new to photos, and there's a lot of work that goes into making like a somewhat decent profile photo, because you can definitely highlight your strengths and kind of avoid some of like your weaknesses. So I'm not particularly tall, so you can angle it so that way you don't look like a midget on your photos. So that's something to consider when you're taking it.
Yeah, it's like Steven and I are around the same height, but I noticed like one thing about when I took pictures of Steven is that if we include his whole body, he looked kind of short. So one key thing I did with his photos particularly was to cut off his feet entirely and have like a slight upward angle on most of the photos.
Mm-hmm.
So when we just like boil it down to simplicity, most of the photos that I took of you were like simple concepts, right? So we had one in Grand Central where you were just looking at your watch, and then we had one where you were dressed up in like a fancy spot and you were just looking out the window, and one where you were just at Central Park, like posting against like you were just posing against the bridge. But the key was I made even look good in every single one of these like photos, so that it was to highlight that this is the guy. He's cool. He's chill. Has variety in outfits. He likes going to a bunch of different locations, right? So he's just he's a person of variety and culture. And the funny thing about like having this type of portfolio is that if you're someone who can actually do a little bit of deep diving, you'll realize that, wait a second, this guy has all 6 of his photos in the same city. But women don't think like that. They only derive from what they see. So when they see like a nice photo, they're like, damn, this guy looks cool. This guy looks chill. Like if you know the place, then they can like, kind of think more about that. But they're like, damn, this guy looks pretty cool and chill. See another photo. Damn, this guy looks pretty cool and chill. And they may not recognize that they were all taken in the same place. Like some guys make the mistake of using multiple photos from the same photo shoot, and then that makes it seem like they're too attached to that single photo shoot. It's like, okay, this is my whole life right here. I paid this guy like $1,000 to take like 6 pictures of me in this leather jacket and shirt in this park. Like all 6 of them as my personality. Right? Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I did notice like all the poses, all my photos were in different poses, so I didn't feel like it was repeating. Like it was always in a different like way of sitting and stuff. So I really appreciated the way like you set up the photos to look, because like there's me like different poses, it adds variety, and it just creates like a whole new dimension of who I appear to a lot of girls. So
yeah, it's just like we didn't like force you to do anything or like pretend to be doing something that you don't normally do. Right? You were just chilling at these places, but you were looking good doing it. That was like one of my key points in taking a good dating app photo. Right? You don't have to you don't have to look like you're doing the most interesting thing in the world. You just have to look attractive doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see here.
I would like to preface that it was kind of important that I had to do something with my hair, because originally my hair wasn't, it was pretty basic. That's the only way I could say it. So I did go for a perm, which definitely made my, it did elevate like my appearance quite a bit. So
that was like,
yeah. Because he did give Vincent did give feedback on my haircut and stuff. He said that you need to change it up. Like your photos will only look so good as your hair at that point. So yeah.
So just curious, like in Victoria or like Houston, do you ever like go out and kind of like experience like the city?
Oh yeah. I've been to like the nightclubs in Houston. I've been to one in Victoria, but it's kind of awkward seeing your patients. It's kind of awkward having patients walk up to you and talk to stuff. So I don't do that very often in Victoria. So it's kind of weird, but I get it because I'm familiar. I'm familiar in the town, so I try to keep it low key there. But Houston, I can just do whatever I want, but no one really knows me.
Yeah. So did you take anything from visiting New York City?
What do you mean? So are we talking like the photos or like the just like general?
Yeah, just like experiencing New York City as a city.
So in New York, not many people really talk, but if you talk, they're pretty open. If you're like, if they talk to you, they're probably a tourist in that case. Because it was like a late night thing. There's another person sitting next to me. It was a female, and I was just chatting her up. I just noticed what she had, and she was like really appreciated that I took the time to give her a good conversation. Of course, they didn't go further than that, but it was like a nice change. So I didn't really cold approach during that whole time, other than going to the nightclub at the end. But I don't think that panned out too well, to be honest.
Yeah, so we're just about to get into that. So, just tell us like your thoughts on that night, because just as part of the experience, I wanted to check out a New York City nightclub, and Mission was at the top of my list because I heard there's like a lot of Asian girls there. So
yeah,
right, we went there. We kind of went there. Yeah, I kind of like coached you a little bit on how to do like cold approach. So give me your thoughts on how that experience went.
So overall, I still had a good time because like I enjoyed dancing and the music, but it just some of the I just felt like approaching some of them were really difficult because obviously they were pretty foreign. There are a lot of foreign Asians, and I'm not used to talking to foreign Asians. Also, they don't speak English very well. So if you're like trying next to them and like screaming in English, they might not get that. And some of them were in groups, so their guard was pretty up during that time. Although I did see other guys kind of approach too, but I just saw what a guy should do and not do in that case. I just found that pretty interesting.
Do you think that experience would open you up to doing more of it, or you think you're good on that?
Honestly, I'm not that type of person. Like that that nightclub thing I wasn't sold on the idea of doing that type of approach. But if it was a different environment, I might try it again. I'll just also in that club there was like a lot of guys, so each girl was like being mobbed by guys. So you're pretty much like trying to squeeze in like a conversation or some dance moves in front of them during that time. So I don't think it was like the best representation of cold approaching, but I don't know. It's really my style.
Yeah, and I'm like pretty much the same way. Like there's a reason why I'm so much more invested in using online dating as a method versus cold approaching, because it's like you have to put your ego and pride on the line, and you have to like shoot your shot at you're not sure of interest. Right? You have to open people up to figure that out. When it's like I would rather just sit at home. I would rather have good pictures and then sit at home, pre-filter out people, and then set up dates on my own time. Right? Numbers wise, obviously it's not going to be as efficient, but it's a lot less taxing mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so let's get into that, right? So after we got you all set up with the photos and your prompts, right? So I basically just set up your prompts just to be a cool, chill guy. You're pretty authentic. You have certain interests, and they're not going to deter your personality in any ways. So they just support the cool, chill vibe of the photo. So going back to Texas, just tell us how things started off for you.
So I definitely got the newbie boost for sure. So I did get a lot of, I got some likes coming in. I did notice like the likes start slowing down, but whenever I like person, I tend to match them pretty quickly. So at least I know my photos weren't like a major deterrent. They weren't liking my photos, but whenever I like make the conversation with them, they at least match with me. So my photos wasn't holding me back really in that case. So I was able to highlight some of my strengths with like talking and stuff and try to get them on like the first date in that case.
Which photo was the most receptive?
There was a variety. Actually, the leather jacket one has gotten the most likes. Actually, that was probably the coolest one by far. And then I got some of you with me in the black suit one.
All right. So going into like the messaging and stuff. So how well were you prepared for messaging?
So I didn't know what to do at first. I did have to review through your video on that because I knew for sure I didn't want to become texting buddies where else it's not going to go anywhere and you're just going to lose patience. And I know I have a very small time window of which to secure like any dates or just prolong the interest at that moment. So I did refer some of your videos, your video on texting and stuff, and trying to get that first date rolling and stuff. So
yeah. So do you still have it like fresh on your mind, or do you want to like review it, like your first dating app conversation?
Let me see. Depends which one. So
I think the one where you got the date set up right away.
Oh yeah. So that one was. Yeah, so this one I kept it pretty brief, and we pretty much scheduled a date. So I pretty much scheduled a date maybe within a few conversations in. I did post under the coaching channel about what to work on, and you did tell me to try to get to the point a little bit sooner, or else if you just make the conversation too long, then you're just going to lose interest that point. So the first conversation went pretty well. It was a little bit chatty, but I could tell that she was at least into me. So I had a little bit more leeway in getting that first date started. So it really depends on the person to person, who they like, if you like them or if they like you.
Yeah, I think it was good that you realized that you had interest and that you had like an end game in mind. like a lot of guys would struggle with conversing with like their first matches or so, and you at least were prepared enough to know that this conversation had to end with like setting up a date. So the main advice that I had for you was, because I'm like, a master of it, was that you could have like been a lot more concise, and you could have cut out like some of the chit chat by
Yeah.
like progressing things a little bit faster. Just because like maintaining interest and goodwill is very important, especially when you deal with more
Yeah.
attractive women, because they're dealing with a lot. They're dealing with a lot more options. They're dealing with a lot more guys who are boring them with standard small talk. Guys that are like trying to be really pushy. So then when you're someone that's like right in the middle, and then you escalate things properly, that makes you stand out a lot. So I did advise that, like, okay, just keep in mind that for future interactions, having a better framework will be required for like better options. But a win is a win. We start with wins, especially for someone like you who just got into it with like some actual real effort, right? So you got your good photos, you got your good profile. This was like your time to actually try.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many more conversations did you have with like other women until you got on your real first date?
So I had maybe probably at least 10 conversations going on, but they just disappeared at like after the first or two exchanges, or it was just like a location issue too, because I did get some matches whenever I was in New York, and there's no way that I can meet them again unless it's like a few months later. So I knew that it wasn't feasible to go on a date with them at that time.
Yeah, he was talking with chicks in New York right after he got the photos, made the profile instantly.
Yeah.
So he talked to girls that he couldn't meet.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer because there was one that I was interested in, but she wasn't free. She wasn't available because she had the like Chinese New Year and stuff going on. So that was a bummer. I couldn't meet her right away. So that was quite unfortunate, but
yeah,
maybe I'll have a chance later on.
Move to New York.
Oh, wow. Just rebuild my life, I guess.
All right. Anyways, now let's talk about your first date off of a dating app. So I prepared you with Google Docs I made for a friend I helped lose his virginity to. I basically gave him my first date plan, and it's very saucy. That's why I didn't like post it out like publicly to like people. So I sent that to you, and honestly, I wasn't expecting much, but you surprised us. So let's hear from the man. Let's hear from the man himself.
So, is it okay if I mention names or no? Does it matter if I mention names?
I mean, I wouldn't use like her real name or anything. Just like
I'll just initialize.
Just initialize it.
So yeah, I went on a date. I went in. So one of my first matches and date setup was with a girl called M. So she wasn't actually in Houston; she was in Corpus. So I drove over there and picked her up since she didn't have a car at the time.
Where's Corpus from Victoria?
So it's about an hour and a half, maybe like 90 miles. So I just have to drive quite a bit.
Okay, so you went 90 miles to her. All right, continue.
Yeah. So I chit-chatted her. She was definitely into me. By the way, she was staring and she was looking at me. She was a little nervous. So we first went by to get like a quick ramen, and we were initially sitting across from each other. But I knew that it wasn't going to get anywhere, just us like eating like a meal that's like just for friends. So I decided to take a little bit of a risk and sit right next to her and get a little bit closer. So that way we get some sort of, I guess, physical contact going on. Not in that type of sense, but just closeness. So that way she knows that I'm at least interested in her. Because if you just keep your distance, she doesn't know if you're into her or not at that point. So yeah, I did some shoulder bumping, some like leg touching, like my leg, touching her leg a little bit to see if she was like receptive to it. I saw that she was receptive. She didn't move away, so I decided to move a little bit closer, and I playfully teased that, "Hey, my food is pretty good. Do you want to try some?" So I ended up feeding her some of my food to her. So yeah, and then she did the same for me. And then afterwards, we went to get some dessert. We kind of did that same spiel again. And we went to the park afterwards. We held hands, did like a simple walk, and then we just relaxed for a little bit. And I know that she was really into me, and I knew that I could have closed pretty soon. So I decided to take a small risk and play like a kind of a game where we were just guessing like some candies, and then if I won, then I would get like a kiss from her. So yeah. Well, once we got a kiss, she was really into it, and then we just went back to her place and we did the deed. So
nice. Based.
Yeah.
Based.
Yeah. So I managed to take care of all in half a day, I guess. So that time period was maybe a few hours of like eating lunch and then a dessert, and then walk around the park, and then back to her place.
And this was like your first like real date as like an
real
adult,
date, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So just
I was
like
pretty.
Yeah. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky and fortunate because she was definitely into me, and I don't know if that would have worked with every woman I've met. So yeah, your mileage might vary depending on how into it, but it's kind of your job to kind of gauge that too, and kind of escalate that interest that you have or she might have. So because they only have they have options too. So if you're not showing that you're not willing to take the initiative to at least show that you're interested, they're not going to really go for it at that point.
Yeah, so like this is like really extraordinary because this is like the type of stuff that a lot of guys struggle to get to until like a few dates in or until they get a little bit seasoned. But you straight up slam dunked on your first try. That's like what's astounding to me. So I want to like get a little like deeper into like your thought process on that. So just like, because I love the fact that you said that, the main reason why you succeed was because you figured out that you had to take risks, and that's like the number one thing guys have to do when they're like dealing with dating, because you have to be the leader, you have to lead the interaction, you have to escalate, you have to make the move, because most of the time women, they're going to be receptive, they're not going to be the initiator. So especially the fact because like you had basically never done this before, you had been out of it for years, and then you basically accomplished what most guys take years to get to, like me, myself included. So, like, just tell us what compelled you to do what you did during that date.
Well, I had a goal in mind, which obviously isn't getting laid in that moment. I just went with the flow. I wasn't thinking too hard in that part to getting laid. I just wanted to have a good time, and we eventually built up to that moment. So I just kept myself present. I didn't try to like always make her happy. I was also like trying to just have a good time in general. So if you're always too tensed up, or if you're always there with like a specific purpose, girls are going to sense that, and they might be turned off by that, depending on like how you are. So, and I feel like if you're not like too unattractive, you have a little more leeway. But if you have like some sort of like poor physical qualities, I think you have less chances to like pretty much screw up, because
so I'd say like you have a pretty good grasp of like reading nonverbals, right?
Mm-hmm. But for the most part, because I do interact with a lot of patients, I do talk like every day, and I do have to like read what they're kind of read between the lines of what they're wanting. So I have some practice into it, but sometimes whenever you're talking to a woman, especially if they're like super attractive, all the blood gets rushed from your brain to like down there, and you just start not thinking at that moment. So you gotta be somewhat aware, but not like hyper aware at that point.
Yeah, get a job that lets you see and talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, but like sales
Optometry
probably
is.
would help a lot.
Yeah, optometry is.
Yeah,
So
gotta.
yeah, how did your next few dates go after that one?
Okay, so after that, I did have a date with a another girl. It was in my hometown in Victoria. So that was a wine tasting, and the date went well overall, but we were pretty incompatible in terms of taste and what we're interested in, especially with like wine tasting. So I prefer I like fruity or sweeter wine. She liked dry wine, so I decided to play ball with her and go for the dry wines. And I almost spit all of them out. I just forced myself to drink through them, suffer through it for a little bit, and I don't know. The conversation was a little. I felt a little bit too platonic, and also even almost like a coworker because she was also in the medical field as well. She was a PA, so like I guess we had some like like common like job thing, but I just didn't. I knew that it wasn't going to go very far after like we were done with the day and we just said goodbye and stuff. Well, of course we hugged at the end, but I knew it wasn't going to go too far. And I didn't initiate this second date since I wasn't too interested in her at that after that. So.
I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, what about the one after that?
Oh, so this one's a pretty funny one. So this is the hotel one. So, okay, backstory. So this was a date that was in Houston. So I drove over there and
How
we
far
both
is
met up.
Houston for you?
So it's at least 100 miles, maybe 110, 120 if you're going towards like mid Houston, like downtown. But we were just in like that South Houston area. So we decided to meet up for some Malaysian food. I did my magic with some close contact, feeding her and all that jazz. And we were really getting into it. And I had a plan to bring her back to my place, which I mean is my sister's place at where I was staying. But unfortunately, she wasn't out. The door wasn't locked. The door was locked at the time, so I couldn't really use her place. I can use my place to bring her back for like some shows to watch. So I had to improvise a little bit. So what I did was I took her out for some ice cream, and I just looked at my phone some quick hotel stays, so that way I have somewhere else to do it because I don't want to do it in like some sort of alleyway or in a car. That's too comfortable, obviously. So as we were doing that, I kind of made like a excuse that sorry, my place isn't ready, and I just want to see if she was willing to have me come over her place, but she wasn't willing to. So I was pretty relieved that I at least had that fallback plan with the hotel. So yeah, we decided to meet up at the hotel and we did our thing. Apparently she really liked it, so I went on a second date with her a few days ago. So there's gonna be a report on that later on. So I pretty much made her almost I guess in a way friends with benefits at this point. We're definitely upgraded from like a date to like friends at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, so this is like very interesting because like this date close is very, very hard to pull off the hotel close. Because like
it's
the thing
hard.
because the thing about dating is that again, like as a guy, you're supposed to have like things set up. Like the logistics are usually a key component that you need to have control over. So it's a lot easier to handle things when you have your own place. But when you don't, and the question becomes like, okay, where do I go from there? Do I just do it in like a car? Do I go to like
the bathroom?
Like just some like you know you can do the deed, but you need to find a place that's like kind of safe and contained to do it. And the hotel's like the main alternative option, but you have to invest money into it. So the question there is just like, okay, if I book this hotel, am I going to, go to Pound Town after, right? So I think did you secure that idea before or after you booked?
I secured it. So I knew I had a short time window. Um, so the thing was, since both our places weren't available, I had the option of either rescheduling it later on or just doing it now. So I know I had like pretty much one chance at that moment to get that ball rolling, and so it was so I had to secure that hotel before so the thing is, I secured the hotel thing while she was like we're eating ice cream and stuff. So that gave me enough buffer time to let her know that both places weren't available. Because if I just spring it upon her, she's gonna say, "It's like, what's this guy doing? Where does he live?" So yeah, I had to create that small. I had to create like a window where I was able to like find a place for that moment.
Yeah, it's some crazy improvisation, and props to you, man. This is like a key example guys can learn from. But you didn't like book a hotel the second time, right?
For a third, no.
No,
So mine was like an Airbnb this time. So it was actually like a decent flight. It wasn't like some dingy hotel that you're sketched out by. So yeah, I did prepare this time with the logistics because I know that she was into me. She was like she's ready to go at that moment. So
yeah. Any fluxes you want to mention, Steven?
oh yeah. So for her, we ended up spending the night, and we definitely had some nighttime activities. I was kind of worried that our neighbor's going to report us at that point, since we were at nighttime and then a little bit in the middle of the night and then in the morning as well. So, so that was pretty fun and pretty interesting to say the least.
Yeah, Steven's the man. Yeah, and you also happened to go on a date yesterday, so give us the run through on that one because you just posted about it.
Yeah, so this was so let me explain the backstory of that date. So I was actually initially scheduled for a day on Friday, but I did have a feeling that she was going to, I guess, cancel at the last minute. So I kind of had like a backup prepared on that day after. So yeah, that's pretty much happened. So I matched with her. We talked a little bit. I displayed interest and wanted to meet up with her for something simple like boba and some tea. So we decided to settle on a place. Unfortunately, logistics wasn't on our side really because I was living in one area and then she was living on the other side of town, which was almost 30, 40 minutes away. So we decided to settle on a place halfway in between, just like a compromise. So we decided to meet up. So when we met up, they had a festival going on. They had this anime festival going on. So there wasn't any place for us to sit in the cafe where they had the boba tea. So we ended up having to like walk around, chat a little bit. I tried to initiate some close contact, like hand holding, but she wasn't really down for it. And also, our hands were kind of full with our drinks and stuff while we were walking. So, so I decided to change the venue a little bit, where we just sat at the bench, where I just sat a little bit closer. We chatted a little bit more, and I could tell she was warming up, but she wasn't like quite ready for that final push. So I decided to move the conversation from the bench to my car specifically, since she was apparently afraid that her car was too dirty. So we ended up going back to my car. We chatted for a bit, and I tried to initiate some close contact, such as I just noticed I looked at her nails, complimented them. I kind of take that chance to hold her hands for a little bit, and then I worked my way up her wrist. So she had these bracelets and charms. So I just complimented that, asked her where it was from, just look at them, hold them for a little bit, and then I worked up to her upper arm where she had this nice tattoo of an anime character. So I was trying to work my way up of that physical contact, and then I was about to go for that kiss or the close towards the end, but I just noticed that she wasn't quite into it. She had like her head like turned to the side. She was almost like leaning back almost a little bit. So I decided to just be direct, ask her what's wrong, and she said that she's not used to guys moving that close to her. So I had to pull back a little bit and just change the topic and stuff. So yeah, I wasn't sure in that moment whether to just go for it or just play dumb and just make like a joke about it, or just went ahead or stop what I did. So I never really know. But I just ended up taking her back to her car, gave her like a warm hug, and we texted. We'd like to meet again later on. So maybe around the second round, she might be more receptive. Who knows? So I feel like though I feel like if you don't really initiate like any close contact on the first date, I feel like their interest is gonna wane pretty quickly because they're not sure yet if you're like into them or so. So
Yeah, for
that's why I
sure.
had the feeling. Like I feel like I had to like move things along for sure, or else they're just not gonna. They have other guys to do it for them at that point. So,
Of course.
oh, but it depends on the girl too. So some girls like to take it slowly. I know that you gave me some advice for talking to like older women. So they definitely have their guards up because they've been through the trenches as well with a lot of guys. So I do have to keep that into perspective as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you're, being critical. You're being critical and thinking like clearly on these types of things. So,
Mhm.
like, how do you feel about your current dating prospects? Like, do you see do you see yourself um, doing anything serious with any of the people that you're talking to right now, or are you like still looking?
I'm still looking, to be honest. I haven't really found one that really resonated with me. Of course, I have some that I will continue to go on dates with, to just see how they are, see how compatible we are in terms of like lifestyle. If we just get along really well, which I feel like it's fairly easy for me to get along, but I don't know if that's the case with the other girl. So yeah, I just want to essentially expand my option to keep things open for a little bit.
Yeah, that's what the good profile is for. Like, you have
Yeah.
actual leverage in the dating market.
Hmm.
Oh, let me think. Okay. I had a question, but I blanked on it. So let's see. I asked about dating prospects.
Hmm.
Uh, so like, what are you primarily looking for on as a dating option? Like, who are
Oh,
you really trying to date? Seriously.
that's a great question because I kind of don't know really, to be honest. Um, I've been talked to a lot of people and I've got a little bit closer, but I haven't like narrowed down like really what really interests me. So I haven't like dated like most of the girls I dated were somewhat similar in a way because they're mostly like homebodies. They don't really go out too often. I like to see on the other side if it was someone who's outgoing, maybe someone who's like really into fitness. I haven't gotten any. I haven't dated any of those yet, so I haven't. I don't know what's like yet. So that's what I like to see, to be honest.
That's fair. Okay, I just remembered my question. So, you basically bypassed a lot of the dating learning curve, from like basically doing nothing much at all many years ago to straight up now. You've been in some very precarious situations. So just
Yeah.
like, how do you feel about yourself being like who you are right now? Like, so because I know that there are some guys, they kind of feel a little bit of imposter syndrome because they're guys that like they went from not feeling attractive, not feeling like they could talk to women, not going out on dates, to all of a sudden, you've already been with multiple women already. Some guys like they spend most of their life and they like never get with anyone at all. And it's like that's a pretty huge accomplishment. So just like how do you feel about that?
Uh, Overall, I feel pretty happy with what I've done. Of course, I want to, of course, improve on what I'm doing right now. Just refine it to the point where I can be comfortable doing it. Because some of the dates where I feel some were a little awkward, and I knew that I could have done better. And I'm just trying to work myself to a point where I'm at least competent, at least uh, not look like a fool whenever I'm talking to other people. So, and I don't mind sharing my experiences with others, since obviously no one really knows what to do other than like people who have actually done it at that point. So, because I started much later, so I feel like this could be somewhat applicable for like people who are like pretty much waited until they got their career, their health going, their job running, and stuff. Sorry, I kind of blanked out on that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the Asians like they look at the long term, so they're just trying to build up their career. They're trying to look good, trying to obviously not look like obese at that point, and have somewhat of a decent like facial appearance. So, but I feel like those they do matter, but if you don't have any of the skills to back that up, it's not going to go very far with a lot of girls, and you can tell.
All right.
That, so
yeah, Steven, Steven's been killing it. Steven's learned, a good amount from your boy, but I think the most commendable thing I have to say about you, Steven, is how adaptable you've been to like your situations. Because like honestly, I didn't really give you much direction after I helped you set up your profile. Right? Like I made my video, and for most guys that I actually coach, I have to like micromanage their conversations. Like for you, I just have to help you with like fine tuning. So, I think it's very commendable what you've been doing. I think you're having a good time, and I'm good. I'm like happy to see that you're still in a good position to continue like moving forward to like try get to finding who you want, right? So just to close things out, just what are some final thoughts that you have about like your journey, your perspective now, and just like anything you want to say to guys that are like listening in?
So while I feel like having like a career is important, I feel like you shouldn't like ignore any of that like I did, because I know that I'm like severely behind right now, and of course I'll catch up sooner or later. And you just need that one date to go well, and at that point the ball will start rolling really quickly. So I was pretty lucky, to be honest, where I managed to secure the home run on that first date, and that pretty much helped me create that momentum for that. But I also try to stack the decks in my favor. So I try to I try to of course have like a appealing profile where a lot of girls like at least won't reject me for how I look, but at least when they meet me in person. So what else? Oh yeah, you also want me to talk about what guys can learn as well, or no? Sorry.
Yeah. Like, what do you feel like are some takeaways if people were like following what you've been doing?
Oh yeah, I get a perm, because apparently Asian hair doesn't look good on a lot of people. Yeah, I feel like a perm is a game changer, to be honest. And of course, I do have like that baby face going on, so it kind of helps if you aren't like fat. So that'll definitely highlight your profile, and at least it won't like eliminate you from like the many choices that girls might have. So yeah, just eat a little bit less if you can, like I'm trying to do, but unfortunately New York didn't really help with that.
All right. You still have something to say?
No, it just, well, I just like to say keep it casual. Try not to take it too seriously, because it's the first day. Like, you just getting to know each other. You guys aren't like in arranged marriage where like the next moment you guys are stamping or signing like the marriage certificate. Just keep it casual. First, of course, if you're really interested, you should lead towards the direction of like getting into a relationship where you become girlfriend boyfriend. But at the moment, try to see how they are. Try to see and try and take a few risks if you can, because if you're not, then it's just not going to go anywhere. Also, try to mix it up a little bit in terms of how you're talking, maybe physical escalation. Location is important too, because where I'm located, I kind of have to adapt to where I was. I had to go to a bigger city, like a much bigger pool of people, because in my hometown, it's not too conducive to my environment right now. So I just have to look at prospects elsewhere a lot. So if you're in a small town, if you're lucky, you might find someone nice, but you probably have a better chance of going to a bigger city, especially if you're Asian. Well, yeah.
All right. Is that it from you, Steven?
More or less. So yeah, if you can't handle really rejection, you should probably do online dating. I'm the type that doesn't take rejection that well. Of course, I try not to let it get through me, but I kind of feel shitty at the end of the day. So yeah.
Right on. So that's Steven for you. Steven has been a very great example of a guy who's taking the leap to get his act together, and now he's suffering from success. So
I guess in a way.
Yeah. So Steven, he's been doing a good job of typing out reports for us in the Discord. So if you guys are looking to get any value on things that we like talking about, such as dating, fashion, fitness, join the server. We just have we don't really do much. We just have casual conversations about these types of things, and guys are getting their takeaways from it. And if you desire any more help of any sort, you can consult me, or you can hire me for coaching. So that's it. That's it from us. We've been killing it. Steven's been killing it, and you can find us in the server. Come join the server. All right. Stay based, y'all. Yep, stay based, y'all. We'll see if we find other people to talk to. All right.